Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 216 of the J-Situation podcast. I'm recording this on June 18th, 2024. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the podcast. I hope you and your loved ones are doing well. Hope you had a great weekend. To all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. I hope it was very nice. Mine was very nice. Mostly. Quick episode today. I think it's a really neat one. We have some more rimfire data and analysis to show you. Yeah, that's right. And it's from a major firearm manufacturer. Savage Arms is throwing their hat into the silencer game. Yeah. And they approached our laboratory to evaluate their AccuCan series. Yeah, so today we are publishing bolt action 22 testing and analysis of the AccuCan AC22. Pretty wild to have Savage as a client of Pew Science. Pretty cool. We are very excited to show you how the silencer performs. It does exceptionally well on this host, actually. So some of you may be pleasantly surprised about that. I know I was, so it was cool. Also on this episode, we've gotten a lot of questions via email and in general from new silencer users. And we love questions, never get tired of them, actually. One of the pervasive lines of questioning we get is about cleaning silencers. So rather than give a step-by-step guide right away, something like that, in typical Pew Science fashion, I thought a good first step would be to talk about the why. Yeah, so why would you even need to clean a silencer anyway? Like, that's kind of a question that I think some people might have trouble answering. So I'm going to take a stab at answering that in a comprehensive way for you today. And I hope it's helpful for you to build that knowledge base from the ground floor, as it were. Yeah. Now, if you're new to the podcast, just know there's timestamps in the description on all the platforms in which you can skip to the topics if you like. And you can do that now if you want. But first, I'm going to talk about strength training stuff really quick. If you're into being strong, stick around. If not, if you don't like lifting weights, you don't like to be swole, well, you skip to the silencer stuff. But a pretty neat thing happened this week. One of our primary sponsors of this podcast, Legion Athletics, they finally started selling creatine monohydrate as a standalone supplement. They've already had creatine monohydrate in some of their other compounds they sell, whatever, but now they're actually selling a standalone white powder, okay, the micronized creatine monohydrate, and you can buy it from them now, like directly from their website as a standalone product. Yes, and I know this podcast is mostly about silencers, but again, strength training is important. I do urge you to consider lifting weights if you don't. Okay, it will change your life. I promise you, it will change your life. So what you should know about creatine. So creatine monohydrate, it's one of the cheapest, most effective, and most well-studied performance supplements that exists for human beings on Earth that we know of, like in 2024. Okay, I can tell you that right now. For decades, I've used it. I've used micronized creatine monohydrate specifically as a supplement, and out of pretty much paranoia, my own paranoia, I've always used the stuff sourced from Germany. The Creapure stuff. It's actually it's a brand name creatine monohydrate that's micronized from Germany, and that Creapure it ends up getting licensed and rebranded by whatever brands are out there. So what I typically have done is I've always gone to Amazon, Amazon Prime, whatever, and found a monohydrate with Creapure on the label, and then I buy it, and then I use it all, then I find another one and I buy it, whatever. And the reason I do that is because I know what I'm getting, I know what the consistency of it is going to be, like with regard to the particle size, and how it, because micronized creatine monohydrate powder is flavorless. It's white. It's flavorless. It's a little gritty, but whatever. You're not drinking it for taste. You're drinking it to get swole, right? For all the different benefits of creatine, including it allows your muscles to take up more water, higher strength output, more endurance. It has cognitive benefits. There's more research and papers being published on creatine like every year. It's an incredible supplement. Anyway, so I've always done that from Amazon, the CreaPure stuff, right? Well, that, like, because I know what I'm getting. Well, Legion Athletics is a pretty trusted entity. I guess I found that so far. So they're always research based. They cite all their sources on their website. It's really great. That's one of the reasons why we accepted Legion Athletics as a sponsor of the podcast. They are evidence based, and that fits in with the theme of our lab as well. So we thought it was a good match, and so I'm excited to try their version. It's not CreaPure. I'm sure it's not that brand, but they must be getting it somewhere else. When I try it, I will let you know. I have not tried theirs yet, okay? If you try it before me, which you might, let me know how you like it. And I know, for those of you who are not familiar with creatine and the way it works, if you don't use it, to get the effects of it, you have to take it for a few days in relatively large amounts to saturate. And then once you have that saturation, you will notice a difference. If you're a normal or high responder to it, I myself am a high responder to creatine monohydrate. Once I take it for a couple days, like I get visible changes in my muscle bellies due to water retention. It's like I always have, but I have my genetics are a little different than some people. So it might take you a little while to notice the difference, but if you are an experienced user of a creatine monohydrate supplement and you know what it feels like to be on creatine and not to be on creatine, please try it. Try the Legion Athletics and let me know what you think. I want your honest opinions, because I would never, ever, ever tell you guys to use something that doesn't work. That's stupid, right? So I'll be the first to tell you. If it doesn't work for me, I'll tell you. I just haven't tried it yet, so I don't know. Okay. I've been using CreaPure. So that's all. I wanted to tell you guys about that. I think this is a really big deal. One of the things about Legion, I tell you guys in this ad I'm about to say, is that they don't have everything you need, but they have a lot of what you need. Them selling dedicated creatine monohydrate is a huge deal, because there's basically 3 main supplements you need to get jacked: whey protein, creatine, and a pre-workout. There's a lot of other stuff that can help, but those are the big 3. And I think once you have them, you have everything you need to get incredibly jacked. And that's all you really need to do in life. Okay, so let's talk about some ads. This podcast is, of course, like I just talked about, brought to you by Legion Athletics. And nothing worth doing in life is worth doing without consistency. And so you have to do things all the time if you want to be exceptional at them. Legion Athletics can help you with that. They do have, like I said, whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout. Now they have creatine. Okay. Visit legionathletics.com. There is a link in the show notes, code word PewScience, to save 20% off of your first order. And if you keep using that code every time you buy your supplements, you'll get a net 10% off everything going forward forever using that code. You'll help the podcast. You'll help yourself by saving money, and you'll get super jacked, which is like the most important thing in life. Besides having silencers, they're equally important. This podcast is also brought to you by Top Gun Range Houston. If you're in the Houston area, even if you're just visiting, they are worth checking out. In addition to having a 15-lane indoor shooting range, which is crazy, they have the largest firearm rental fleet in the entire state of Texas. And in addition to renting pistols and rifles and shotguns and machine guns, you can rent silencers. Big deal. It is. Okay, you can check out all their rental inventory on their website at topgunrange.com. Give them a shout on Instagram at Top Gun Range. They love answering your DMs and talking about silencers all day and night. It's their favorite thing to do. Check them out. Podcast is also brought to you by High-End Armament Technology, a boutique dealer of exotic weapon systems up in Oklahoma. Chances are, if you're looking for something, and you ever have one of those missions where you need exotic weaponry, Robert and his crew at High End Armament can help you with that, okay? Infrared sighting systems, night vision, rare Knights Armament stuff, weird HK stuff that doesn't exist except on, like, the dark corners of the internet. High End Arms on Instagram, Facebook page, which is High End Arms, and highendarms.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Silencer Shop, the largest distributor of silencers in the world. You can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically. It's all secure, encrypted, safe, convenient. Buy a silencer while you're watching Netflix. You should. It's easy. You get a money back guarantee. It's great. If you're a dealer, what? You're worried about holding inventory? Worry no further, friend. Silencer Shop will hold it for you. Put a kiosk in your shop. Welcome to the new age. Okay? Yeah, no transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. Truly is silencer ownership simplified. And finally, and I've spoken about this many times, the podcast is sponsored by the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director of the lab. In the interest of public education, we have chosen to continue to put on this podcast, to sponsor this podcast, and run a public research effort which continues to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time. And if you visit our website at pewscience.com, you will see the suppression rating. It's the simplest, most accurate hearing safe rating for suppressed small arms. That computation is based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before the combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. It's the home of the silencer sound standard, guys. 7 sections. It's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the entire known universe, and it's available to the public 24/7 at pewscience.com, and you can be a part of this. You can join our family. You can support the podcast. You can support the laboratory. You can support all the public testing we do. Everything that comes out of this place, you can support by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. Join us on this journey. It's awesome. You make it happen. And if you're not into like a low monthly fee or whatever to a donation like that, you can just donate a one-time thing on the website if you like. There's a donate button on the podcast page and the review page if you want. Every little bit helps. And if times are tight and money's like super crazy right now, I understand in this economy, something that's free and doesn't cost you anything. You can give this podcast a good rating on Spotify or iTunes, your favorite podcast provider. Like and subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff. Do you know that we're on YouTube? We are. Just let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. And it can help normalize the use of suppressed small arms for you and me and your children. 2 topics for you today. Like I said, we have Sound Signature Review 6/155 being published today. That's crazy. 155 articles. The Savage Arms AccuCan AC22 on the CZ452 bolt action 22 rifle. Yeah, more rimfire, man. Oh my goodness. From Savage, no less. Wild. It's very exciting to us when a major firearm company gets into silencers. Even more exciting when they come to Pew Science. That's cool. So this will be an introductory discussion for that technical white paper, which is published today with this episode. And then topic 2, do you actually have to clean your silencers? Well, eventually, maybe. You might have to. Now, why would it matter at all, though? And is it hard to do? Well, it doesn't have to be. Okay, so again, we received some questions from new silencer owners. I want to go over some basics when it comes to basic silencer maintenance. I want to talk about the technical reasons regarding why you would need to clean at all. Okay, this might be a part 1 of 2 series. We'll see how far we get in it and how many parts it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to run it like that. All right, topic 1 at a time of 13 minutes and 34 seconds. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Thank you for putting up with that long introduction. Topic 1, Sound Signature Review 6/155. The Savage Arms AccuCan AC22 on the CZ452 bolt action rimfire rifle. Pretty exciting stuff. When a major firearm company gets into silencers, I'm pretty stoked about this. And again, thank you for hearing my long description of creatine monohydrate on the introduction to this podcast. I implore you, if you are just starting to strength train, I'm so excited for you. It's going to change your life. And creatine monohydrate is so cheap, so readily available. What a great supplement that can help you do great things, both strength-wise and cognitively. I urge you to check out something like that. And if you don't want to get it from Legion, our sponsor, don't. Get it from Amazon. Whatever you need to do, just get swole, okay? So with this topic, before I get into this, I just want to take a minute before we get started to sit back and revel in something that is amazing. Okay. What was one of the first host weapons used in public Pew Science testing? It was my old hunting rifle. That's my own rifle. That's right, the Savage Model 10 precision carbine, the 20-inch 308 bolt action you see on all the 308 tests. That's my old hunting rifle. Yeah. You know what Savage makes? They make unbelievably affordable rifles that actually work and are very accurate for the price. In fact, I shot that rifle better than that Q-Fix that I own. Every time I shot that Savage rifle better than that Q-Fix. Every time. Am I saying it's a better rifle? I didn't say that. I said I shot it better. Okay, that's what I said. It's true. I've never shot that Q-Fix like I've shot that Savage. That Savage, I don't know, something about it, man. That trigger, just the way it's a great rifle. And I mean, it groups really tightly. Almost every one of the deer hanging on my wall, and there are a bunch of them, were taken with that rifle. Has a lot of blood on its hands. So when Savage Arms approached Pew Science to characterize their AccuCan silencers, I was pretty honored and excited because, I don't know, man, the effort's come a long way. To have a manufacturer as large as them trust our laboratory to perform the work like this is pretty surreal. Think about it, man. Like I literally started this out of my garage and took a Savage rifle out in the field to test, and now they're one of our clients that trusted us to characterize their foray into the silencer game. It's like a big company, dude. That's like, I don't know. It's like that meme where you have Michael Scott from The Office, and he's like sitting next to he's like shaking hand with the guy. It's like imposter syndrome or something else. Anyway, the other thing that's exciting, and this is more of a general thing that I think should excite a lot of you as well, is a mainstream firearm brand getting into silencers. It's a huge deal, and it keeps happening, right? This isn't the first time you've seen like a very large firearms company like really endorse silencers. It's a big deal. So even if you're not into this particular silencer or this particular brand, remember, there are many more firearms in consumer hands than there are silencers. Okay? Silencers are a niche within a niche, man. With every step of more weapon manufacturers adopting these technologies, our goal of normalizing the use of suppressed small arms is one step closer to reality. That's true. And it's a very long road, but it's part of our mission, and it looks like there is indeed some momentum to it. So that's pretty cool, right? That's cool. So taking a look at the AccuCan series from Savage, you get it, AccuCan, right? Remember, like their AccuStock, which is like they got that like aluminum bedding in it, and then they got their AccuTrigger, which has that blade and it's like really light, and then now they have like silencers, AccuCan. You get it, right? It's their shtick. It's cool. Okay, so you take a look at the AccuCan series from Savage. They're simple, utilitarian bolt gun silencers, guys. Now, that's not from Savage, what I just said. Okay, that's not from anyone other than me. That's what I see. That's what I am telling you. In my technical analysis of this stuff, that's what I'm seeing. These are field silencers for field people. Folks that want lightweight stuff to go to work, use them during mobility. Okay? Excuse me. And we've talked about this for years on the podcast, actually. I'm a hunter. I'm a field guy. Yes, I'm a silencer nerd first and foremost, sure. But I do suppress my hunting rifles, and I hunt from both stationary and mobile positions, okay, which is a pretty big distinction for rifle hunters in general, I think. And I always suppress my rimfire setups. Always, 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 always. And the longer my suppressed weapon obsession continues, decade after decade, I keep gravitating toward the total envelope, the form factor argument, right? The size, the weight, the performance, with all this in mind. Okay? All this in mind. So I think that's a lot of good context for what you see from Savage. They have 3 different silencers in the AccuCan line. Okay, they have the AC338, the AC30, and the AC22. The AC22 is what you see today in the white paper on pewscience.com. This is the rimfire model. Okay, AC22 makes sense. Yeah. So, okay, now I have it on my desk in front of me. It's actually taken apart, sitting here. 2.8 ounces. I weighed it on the scale. I don't know what I saw. Something. I have the manual here. It said 3.5 ounces, but no, it does not weigh 3.5 ounces. It weighs 2.8 ounces. I weighed it myself. So I don't know what that weight is, but I always put the weights that I put on the webs on the pewscience.com and the articles. They're the weights that we measure. Just like the lengths too. We also measure the lengths ourselves. We don't rely on the manufacturer specifications for actually anything except for materials, because we don't do a coupon test, and we don't do a chromatography to look at the elementals in the material to tell you what it's made out of. We just have to take their word for it on that one, I guess. But other than that, no. It's 2.8 ounces actually, so it's lighter than what they say, which is a pleasant surprise, and that's pretty light. And how do they achieve that lightweight? Well, buckle up, because some of you are about to scream and get angry. They use titanium and aluminum. That's right. The mount is titanium. And when I say the mount, I'm not telling you there's like some kind of mount that you're going to take apart. No. It's the threaded portion that is on the proximal end that the tube is connected to. The mount is titanium. And the tube and the core are both 70-75 aluminum. Okay, and I forgot the tempering. I'm assuming it's T6 tempering. Yeah, it's T6 tempering, I think. So we do mention this in the article, but besides the super lightweight, what's another benefit of aluminum for silencers specifically? Heat transfer, right? Guess what has a higher thermal conductivity than steel or titanium? Aluminum. That's right, it does. It's going to heat up faster. It's going to cool down faster for the same mass, right? Or no, for the same mass, right? It's aluminum, man. It's going to increase efficiency of the silencer signature suppression too. Did you know that? It is. That's what heat transfer does for the same geometry, right? All other things equal. That's just physics. You can't hide it. Can't hide from it. The silencer itself is actually pretty simple. But remember, guys, and I think if you've been reading our Bolt Action 22 articles, you'll know this, but remember the muzzle pressure that these little silencers have to deal with on a full-length barrel with subsonic ammo are really low, okay? They have to deal with really low pressure. Now, with low muzzle pressure combined with a very short duration due to the relatively small amount of combustion energy from the 22 rimfire cartridge, you do have some possibilities opened up that you don't think about when you're busy looking at super high performance supersonic silencers. Okay, so you're in this performance regime where you're able to kind of do things with your design that you normally couldn't get away with. Okay, so and this is important, especially for this silencer. So if you go back to your old school silencer drawings, like the old patents, the old silencer research, like texts from like military and academia, stuff like that. When you look at all of those different references, what do you see that's very commonplace? Large volume cavities with washers, stuff like that, right? Something to separate the cavities and cause turbulence, but still allow expansion, right? Now, can you get away with that nowadays in the silencer design pedigree? Well, sure. Yeah. It all depends what you're trying to do, though, right? It form and function. Yes. It all depends what you're trying to do. So in this case, from what we're seeing in the performance and in the internal design, use case drove this simplicity. Okay. It's a little longer than some other 22 silencers. It's 5.9 inches. It's not super long, but it's a little bit longer. Due to it being mostly aluminum, the weight doesn't influence handling. Okay, we know that length can influence handling because it pushes your moment arm further on the gun, then further away from you. So as you know, what happens when you take a heavy object and you hold it close to your chest? Okay, you have a weight. That take that same heavy object, you hold it out in front of you and you're holding your arm, it feels heavier. Why? Well, now there's a moment arm. There's a distance, well, not to mention your shoulder muscle is also weak, but that's because you need to lift more weights and take creatine. No, just kidding. See how I throw that back, make you feel guilty about not being in the gym? No, the weight doesn't influence the handling here, despite its length, because it's so light in general. It, even with its center of mass pushed a little further out, this thing weighs 2.8 ounces in total. It's an easy handling unit. So given this, you can do some things with a simple core design that pays dividends with low pressure. Okay, and so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about that in more detail next week when we go through the article in the technical discussion. Okay, on next episode, per usual, we'll let the data percolate and let you understand it and read it. And then when we do the deep dive, as we normally do the following week, next week, we'll go through this in detail. But what you'll see is that progressive expansion volume in the low pressure regime of this cartridge and host can really pay dividends. And what do I mean by progressive expansion volume? I mean essentially matching expansion ratios as you go down the stack to pressure initial conditions at each stage. It's actually one of the basic silencer design tenets, and because the pressure and duration is so low in this combustion regime, it's a wonderful case study of how it works. And so I encourage you to really think through that when you see this core, this a monocore. And I think that some of you folks not familiar with rimfire suppression are going to be really surprised just how quiet this thing is on a bolt gun. Okay, and another thing that's actually very important here is that the first round pop is very negligible on this system, which is great to see. You love that. I mean, on a 22 bolt gun, if you have first round pop, you got a problem. Okay, and they don't, which is good. That's like a big litmus test here. Okay, I'm here to tell you it's in the data, and I'm telling you we have shot this silencer a bunch, and it's doing work on this gun. It's doing work on the full length gun. Okay, so I know another thing that's interesting about this design. And I think it's topical, given what we're going to speak about next, actually, on the podcast, in the next topic. The thing that's interesting about this design is the way you take it apart. Now, everyone knows there are basically two camps, right? There's two camps in the silencer nerd universe traditionally. On the one hand, you have the diehard, oh my gosh, if you can't take apart your 22 silencer, it's going to fill up with lead instantly. You're going to go blind. Your dog's going to die. It's going to get super loud. I just don't think you're going to live past 45, and you have no idea what you're doing. Your silencer's not going to work right. Okay, so you have that camp, right? And I've seen people in that camp, from the layman, first-time silencer user, to experienced user, to even manufacturers. I've caught all of you saying it. Okay, so that's the one camp. Can't hide from me. That's the one camp. Then you have the other camp. You have the folks that say, who cares? I'm going to shoot it and not clean it, and I don't care about anything, and every cleaning solution's a scam, and no one knows what they're talking about but me. Trust me, I know how to weld and rebuild engines, and I'm the best mechanically ever, and I know everything on the planet, and no one can tell me anything about anything. I know how 3D printing works and how cars work and space shuttles work, and I'm Elon Musk, kind of, And there's those people too. Okay. So those are the two extreme ends of the rimfire silencer camps, right? Like the people that say, well, if you can't take it apart to clean it, everything's gonna be horrible. And then if you tell me that I need to clean it, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, Those are the two extremes. Well, both of those extreme ends of the spectrum are wrong. And if you're in one of those camps, I'm sorry that you're wrong, but it's not my opinion that you're wrong. You're factually incorrect. Both of those opinions, which are dealing in absolutes, are incorrect. Fact. Okay. The first camp, who refuses to use sealed rimfire silencers, they're completely ignoring the advancements in cleaning solutions that are out there. So they're completely ignoring silencer technology and chemistry. And they're ignoring how different materials behave. So that's them. Okay. Now, the second, and they're going to learn a lot from this next topic. Trust. Now, the second camp, who doesn't believe in cleaning silencers at all, they are indeed going to fill up their rimfire silencers eventually, and eventually they'll turn them into a brick. Now, the caveat here is that the type of people who talk like that, they don't really shoot enough. So, because if they're spending that much time to argue about it, they don't shoot enough for any of this to matter. So they're just blowing smoke and they're not real. Maybe they own one silencer and they act like they have 20 of them. Yeah, they're just internet experts. They don't know what they're saying, right? One second. So the true answer, is it's the nuanced, educated consumer that approaches the middle ground in a lot of this, right? And this AC22 is it's an excellent textbook example for that pragmatic middle ground. Okay. Yes, the core is aluminum. So you don't want to use certain cleaners that can dissolve aluminum. That stands to reason. Correct. However, you can take it apart, which means you can clean it more easily than a sealed silencer, right? And if you're really scared of hurting it, use a toothbrush. Toothbrushes are soft. You use them on your teeth, you're fine. Okay. Sky's the limit here, guys. Knocking off enough buildup to live to shoot another day is a huge thing in the rimfire silencer cleaning world. Okay. Do you have to get it spotless? No. Do you need to clean it often enough so that it's not so full of lead you get a lead strike? Like an actual strike on buildup. Like a baffle strike, except you're not hitting the baffle, you're actually hitting buildup. Do you need to clean it often enough so that doesn't happen? Yes. Okay, so you need to find a happy medium. Okay, you need to find a happy medium here. And since you can disassemble this one with tools, you can disassemble it by hand, but you can also use tool. They have tool features to let you use wrenches if you really need to. So the chances of you getting this lead locked shut are pretty low. They're pretty low. Okay, so you can also disassemble it after every shooting outing if you wanted to, just to cut through that layer on the tube if you like. That's a good practice with these types of silencers. Pretty simple. Okay, so again, I don't mean to patronize anyone. I know this is really simple stuff, but it is worth mentioning if you're new to rimfire suppression. Some folks don't know about it, don't know about maintenance, and maintenance is important for rimfire. Okay, so for now, I would ask that you go check out the article with all this context in mind. I wanted to give you a context for what you're going to read. The rimfire rifle silencer pedigree is growing on the website. That is important. The reason it's important is due to the extreme suppression potential of these types of systems. These are the quietest suppressed setups you're going to use in all likelihood. I'm going to throw out a made-up statistic here, but there's a 99% chance that if you are a silencer consumer in the United States, the quietest thing you are going to shoot is a suppressed bolt-action 22 with CCI standard velocity or some other ammo that stays subsonic. There's quieter ammo that's moving even slower, so the pressure wave is a little bit reduced. But it's probably the quietest type of system you're going to shoot. Okay, so with that, go read. We'll answer the questions as they come. We'll be back next week to talk technically about the performance of the AC22, which is actually pretty interesting, all things considered. One second. Sorry, I've been in meetings all day. My voice is going. Yeah, I did think actually that the performance of this particular silencer, given it's a monocore and a relatively simple monocore, I thought the performance was extremely interesting to see, particularly given it's like 0 first round pop, which is nuts, dude. It's cool. So I'm excited for you guys to see it. And big thanks to Savage Arms for trusting our laboratory to perform the work. Super honored. Really big deal to us. Very excited about it. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to leave this topic for today until next week when we go deep dive technical, okay? Now, I want to talk about silencer cleaning. There's enough emails about this to warrant a mass educational event. And so we're going to talk technically about why you even need to clean a silencer at all in topic 2 at a time of 35 minutes and 31 seconds. Okay, very good. Topic 2, do you actually have to clean your silencers? My answer to you is eventually maybe. Yes. And I would ask you, why would it matter? Do you know why it matters physically? Is it hard? Okay. So like I said earlier in the podcast, this might be a part 1 of 2. I don't know yet. We'll see how many questions I get, but I'm going to go over technical things first. And we need to kind of nip this in the bud. It doesn't have to be hard, guys. And the silencers don't have to be so clean you eat off them. It just doesn't have to be like that. It just doesn't. Remember, let's talk about this. Like, let's get honest with everyone. Let's all sit around the campfire. We're all friends here, okay? I just want you to remember, you are not cleaning parts that are then lubricated for movement to reduce wear and friction. You're not doing that, okay? In those cases, cleanliness is next to godliness. Yes. Okay. So because what you don't want to do is just keep adding lubricant to a reciprocating system for 3,000 rounds like I do with my Scar. And what do? Create a lapping compound, slowly making the engineers cry themselves to sleep. Yeah. So do as I say, not as I do on this one, okay? Okay. If you're not talking about moving parts, like the pistons and the block of your sports car, that's totally not a Miata. You totally don't drive a Miata. You totally have a Porsche, right? No. Or your AR, the slide rails of your pistol. If you're not talking about moving parts like this, the type of cleaning we're talking about here may potentially be different. It's a different type of cleaning, okay? One of the only exceptions to silencer cleaning being different than typical firearm cleaning is the moving parts, the piston assemblies and the mount interfaces that have moving parts, okay? If they have moving parts, the same arguments apply as all other mechanical systems, and you owe it to yourself to try to do a good job with that, okay? So you have to use your common sense. Not everyone's mechanically inclined, but you can read instructions. Okay, especially with like piston assemblies. If you're not cleaning and lubricating your piston assembly and you're having malfunctions on your tilting barrel Browning action handgun with an inertial decoupler system in the silencer, and you've never cleaned it and you never lubricated the piston and spring assembly, well, gosh, maybe you should check that out. Okay, so we'll talk silencer cleaning and talk a little bit about rimfire too. I do want to say cleaning silencers in general can make a difference in suppression. Okay? But for you to understand why, it's very important to understand which mechanisms of suppression are influenced by debris on your silencer internals. When you understand the actual mechanisms, you'll have less questions about this, okay, to yourself even, because you're going to be able to make some judgment calls all by yourself once you understand the building blocks, okay? I am confident that you will be better equipped with more reasoning. It should help you, I think. And I really do think once you understand this stuff, it's going to put your mind at ease a little bit. It's going to let you relax a little bit more. Okay, so let's and we're going to go basics. Okay, and you have to understand this. How do silencers suppress the signature? You have to understand this. First, you have to answer the question: what is the sound signature? What are the silencers even suppressing at all? What is it doing? They are containing the byproducts of an explosion. Okay, an explosion that is generating a blast load. They are containing the byproducts of that explosion for long enough such that they depressurize and cool. And that collection of matter, we want to make sure that the transition to atmosphere happens in a calmer fashion. We're smoothing the ride. That's what a silencer does. The closer you can get the inside of the silencer to the conditions outside of the silencer before the stuff comes out, the more the signature is suppressed. Does that make sense? So it's not necessarily the stuff coming out of the barrel being loud. Just get that out of your head. It's more the difference between it and the atmosphere in which you reside. Okay? It's just like jumping off of a tall building. It's not the fall that kills you, dude. It's the sudden stop at the end. Okay? It's that discontinuity. That's a discontinuity. It's that sudden change. That's what we try to eliminate. You gotta finesse it, dude. You gotta be gentle. Take it to dinner first, okay? So seriously though, it's like, be gentle, dude. You guys are too rough. You're watching too many internet videos. So how does a silencer depressurize and cool combustion byproducts? How does it do that? It's all about energy management, right? It's all about energy management. Remember, energy can't be created, nor can it be destroyed. Them's the breaks, kid. Okay, that's it. But you can certainly move energy from place to place. It has no problem with that generally. You just have to sweet talk it. What's one of the ways of energy transfer management that you can use? You use it every day. Plain old expansion. That's right. Expand a compressed gas and it cools. Yeah, pretty neat, right? It's pretty neat. And we are dealing with compressible flows, supersonic compressible flows. Expand them, they do cool, they will. That's number one. Expansion. Okay, good. That's one method of energy management. What's another thing? What's another thing you can do? You can transfer heat somewhere else. You can send it somewhere. How do you do that? How could you do that? Well, you could expose the combustion gases to a conductor. You could, like, I don't know, metal baffle stack. You could do that if you like. Okay, that's number two. Heat transfer. And it's not just the metal baffle stack that's exhibiting heat, receiving your heat transfer, but I'm simplifying this for you. But that's basically the two things: expansion and heat transfer. Yes? Okay. Now, how do you make I'm trying to be very careful how I say this. There's some nuance here. How do you improve the efficiency of 1 and 2? How do you improve the efficiency of expansion and the efficiency of heat transfer in a silencer? How do you make expansion more efficient and heat transfer more efficient? This is where the magic happens, yes? And this is where we can talk about how cleaning a silencer can matter. I'm telling you, I'm not going off topic. This is important. This is directly related to cleaning. Expansion can only happen efficiently in a design if the design allows it. Okay, so what does that mean? It has to be designed properly. It has to be a good design. And the design has to maintain that allowance for expansion that it was in the initial condition of its use up until some tolerance or value, right? So, like, it has to work up until an allowable tolerance of some point. So if you fill up the first 2 or 3 chambers of your silencer, whatever it is, with carbon or lead or potato chips or whatever you're doing with your hot Cheetos, that's not my business, dude. If you fill it up like that, you will by default change the expansion ratio of supersonic compressible flow through those chambers, even with subsonic ammo. And the silencer will be louder by some amount. How much louder will it be? Well, depends on the setup, depends on the silencer, depends on the buildup, but it will be louder. Okay, so that's one reason to get the crud out of your silencer. What's one reason? Okay, and that's the easy one, right? So far you're like, okay, this guy's talking way too long about this. Why doesn't he get to the point? This is so easy to understand. Okay, well, stay with me, Brainiac. What about number 2? Heat transfer. Okay. How do you make that more efficient? How do you make heat transfer more efficient? Well, besides changing the material to aluminum like they did in the Savage silencer, right? How do you make it more efficient? How do you do it? What's the easiest way? Turbulence. Turbulence is the easiest way. Heat transfer efficiency goes up directly proportionally to an increase in turbulence. That's true. Now, so you see that and you're like, SpaghettiOs. You might have a problem, homie. Right? Oh, homie, is that my briefcase? Oh, it might be. Now you're in optimization curve land, aren't you? If I just told you that, well, Jay, you're saying turbulence is helpful to heat transfer? I did say that. It's true. Oh no. Yeah. Now if you're really thinking about what's happening in the silencer, now you might get stumped, because if you get buildup on your silencer internals, what have you done? Well, potentially you've increased or decreased turbulence in certain areas of the silencer, haven't you? In some designs, if you get buildup in certain cavities, the flow changes in a way that influences performance in a negative fashion. But in some other designs, if you get buildup over some surfaces, it might increase the roughness and it might increase turbulence in some regions, and your efficiency might actually ramp up. You might actually get quieter when you get it kind of dirty. You ever heard someone say that about a silencer, that, you know what, we feel that this silencer just sounds a little bit better when it's more dirty? You know, if you look back in the silencer sound standard research pedigree, if you look at go listen to the podcast I did on the KGM R556, that client sent us a silencer that was all beat up. They told us they thought it sounded better when it was beat up and had a little some buildup in it. Why do you think they said that? Think they were lying? I don't think they were. I think maybe there was some increased turbulence generation in their system, coupled with potentially some high-frequency harmonic damping that could have been brought about by mass accumulation in certain surfaces. I'm just speculating, but I'm telling you, real-world examples do exist. I've heard multiple manufacturers say they always feel like the silencer is a little quieter if it's filthy, but of course you can't control for that, so you test new ones when possible. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is it might be a wash sometimes. The reality here is that turbulence generation and its effect on performance with regard to buildup in the silencer, that relationship is probably a curve. And if you were to draw this in 2 dimensions, get out your graph paper. On the horizontal axis, you probably have round count. Yes? Okay. On the vertical axis of your chart, you could plot turbulence generation influence on suppression efficiency, let's say. So if I was a betting man, if you drew a curve for some simple silencer designs on that chart, I bet you it looks like a rainbow, right? So it starts off at a point with low round count, and you have some kind of turbulence generation influence on suppression efficiency. And then as you shoot it and you go to the right on the chart, maybe you have a dot that goes up because you just increased efficiency of turbulence generation to increase suppression because you got a little dirty. But then eventually, if you keep going to the right with increased round count, you might go down. So that's why I say it could be a rainbow, because you might be too much buildup. So then you start to fight the expansion, or maybe you're generating turbulence in a different way. Understand? So for some designs, maybe it's a rainbow. Other designs, maybe it's just it's a slope down, like your driveway. Some other designs, they might go exponential, like a ski slope, like a black diamond, like a double black diamond. I'm not a skier. I don't know what a black diamond is. Like, it's really hard to steep. Don't break your legs. Don't be Sonny Bono and hit a tree. I don't know. I just know pop culture references. I'm not a skier. That's crazy. I ride BMX. It's much safer not. So there might be a tipping point, is what I'm saying. Okay, there might be a tipping point for each design. But the important thing for you to know is what can happen physically. And I think that using some basic physics knowledge here, you know what to do. Okay, so here's the instructions. This is what's coming, and I think you know what to do. Clean your silencer enough so that there isn't some major buildup in it, okay? If you can take it apart, that is very easy. If it gets some buildup on it, it's probably fine. Don't freak out. Just use a schedule, dude. One way to do it, weigh the silencer when you first get it. Like when you're writing your serial numbers down for your homeowner's insurance policy, weigh the silencer too, and like write down how much it weighed, like on your scale. No, I'm not talking about from the manufacturer's website. Look at the weight that you weigh it from your scale. Okay. When you start shooting this thing, when it gains like an ounce due to buildup, maybe clean it then, or maybe wait to 2 ounces. I don't know. It really all depends on what percentage of the silencer weight that is, right? Like, I don't know how much the silencer weighs, but that has always been a rule of thumb. That is an actual old school rule of thumb for old rifle silencers. That if you gain an ounce, yeah, you might want to clean it, blow it out, because it'll stop. It'll reset it and not have a bunch of buildup continue. Because if you wait too long, it might be even harder to clean it, depending on what it's made out of and if it's sealed and da 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 da. You understand? Again, case by case basis. Now, to go back to this, to bring it home and bring it very topical, rimfire silencers are going to collect buildup faster than centerfire by weight, just to the nature of vaporized lead condensing on the internals, right? And why is that? Because, well, the density of lead is relatively high compared with carbon debris, yes. Lead has a very high density, elemental lead. So you're probably going to clean them more. You're probably going to clean the rimfire silencers more. And if you shoot them more, because the ammo's cheap, you're definitely going to be cleaning them more than your other systems. So that's it's a double whammy. And that's why you talk about, or you see people talk about, cleaning rimfire silencers so often. It's not only that it's dirtier, it's that you shoot it more because the ammo's cheaper, and it's so fun because it's so quiet. So it's dirtier and you're shooting it more. That's a double contribution to increased frequency of use. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. I hope it gives you I know it's an old hat for a lot of you, but I think understanding the physics here is really going to put your mind at ease with like the panic. And I know, since you don't have any hard numbers for me to tell you exactly how much louder it gets when it gets filled, like, it's hard to put into context, but you'll know. So I think that I said this would be like maybe a part 1 of 2. I don't know. Let's call this part 1. It might be a part 1. Let's call it a part 1 maybe here, because now I think you know the what, I think you know the when, and I think you know the why. And I think if we do a part 2, we should do the how, and the how should be how to clean them, I think. Okay, I think that'll be good. And then maybe we work part of this into the Pew Science 101 and 102 episodes as well. You know what I mean? Cool. Okay. So thank you for listening to the podcast. I think about 53 minutes in. If you subtract the intro from that, it's good, like basically half an hour of content for you. That's good. Please check out that Savage AccuCan data. Please check it out. The data and analysis that is published right now on the website. Big ups to Savage for throwing their hat into the ring. We will be back next week to talk technically. We'll talk about actually cleaning these dang things maybe. I don't know. Or maybe we'll just do a technical discussion. That's it. Or maybe we'll give you more data next week too. Who knows? Stay safe out there, friends. I will talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.